Every time another woman tells her story, others discover they can too, like a chain of inspiration.
That's Gretchen Carlson discussing sexual harassment in her opinion piece on CBS Sunday Morning.
The former Fox News anchor reached an out-of-court settlement with Fox News last year, and her new book, Be Fierce, is out today. Gretchen joins us now from New York. Gretchen, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, I love this lady power, women power together.
Yes, and I gotta say, I want to be one of the hundreds of thousands of women who have come up to you and said, and men too, have said, thank you. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I think you talk about in the book so much that you think that perhaps this is a watershed moment. Now that we're going through this, it seems again, is it truly a tipping point?
Well, I really believe that it is, and it makes me feel so proud that I had anything to do with that and giving the courage to other women to come forward. And they're really putting their names and their faces now out there. And it's almost as if they're feeling proud to be able to take a horrific time in their life and say, we're not going to put up with this anymore, and we're going to speak about this loudly so that everyone can hear us. And I do believe it's a tipping point, and it means that all the work that I've been doing for 15 months is paying off.
Yeah, Gretchen, with the Harvey Weinstein, we're looking at Rose McGowan, the first brave soul to come forward. What is she experiencing right now? Like, take us inside. What is that moment like?
Yeah, so you don't build courage just by flipping on the light switch one night. I mean, building courage is a process. And especially with a decision like this, because unfortunately, even in 2017, women face an excruciating choice. Because they're still labeled troublemakers, they're still not believed when they come forward. They still just can't take a joke. And so it takes immense courage to be the one to do that. And she was really the one who did it with Harvey Weinstein. You know, I've been supporting her on Twitter when she didn't want people to tweet last week because she had been taken out of Twitter for the day. And then look what happened when she spoke up. Then so many other actresses said, hey, it happened to me as well. But I just want to be clear, it's not just television and it's not just Hollywood. What I found out after my story broke was that I heard from thousands of women, this is really across all professions. It's an epidemic. It's everywhere.
Yeah, and you write about in the military, and and I think there's so many myths around sexual harassment. If we can first, though, define legally what sexual harassment is, because I think a lot of people, and you write about this, we've all put up with the jokes around, around the off-color jokes. You say, if somebody talks, if people compliment you on your physical attributes, say great rack and so forth. If it is it sexual harassment if someone pats you on the butt? I think we'd all say yes. But how do you define legally what sexual harassment is?
Yeah, so there's two forms. It's either quid pro quo, in other words, sleep with me or you're not going to get the job promotion. I mean, that's pretty obvious that that's sexual harassment. And then it's also a hostile work environment, and that's kind of what you've just been describing now. That part is a little bit more subjective, and I think that complicates the issue because what I might feel is objectionable, somebody else may not, but that doesn't make me right and them wrong and vice versa. I think that the cases that we've been hearing about as of late are so apparent that there is no gray area going on here. And from the thousands of women that I heard from, who I responded to all of them, or at least tried to give them my support, their cases were pretty blatant too. So, while that is horrifying in and of itself, I do feel so optimistic now that more and more women are going to feel brave, and men too. Men are supporting women, and we need them. We want them to help us with this fight.
Gretchen, what about the women in normal jobs that don't have the means to get an attorney? You write in the book an interesting point that a lot of times human resources is not the right place to go. So to women out there that might be experiencing something that really don't feel like they have any options, what's the advice to them?
So I offer a playbook in Be Fierce. It's chapter 4. It's my 12-point plan. And that's exactly what women need to have as a plan. So I hope that they will get the book and look at that as a guidebook. First and foremost, you need to document everything and then take it home. You need to call an attorney just to get advice about where your case stands, if you have a case. You need to find out if you can tape record one-party consent in your state. It's actually illegal in 11 states. Where you are in California, it's a felony. And then you need to tell trusted colleagues what's happening to you so that you have witnesses. But this is all laid out in my book. Another thing that I want to let you know about is that the one question that really gnawed at me after my story broke was, how do I help the single mom who's working 2 jobs and being sexually harassed? She can't quit and she can't bring it forward. And I'm really proud to let you know that my Gift of Courage fund that I set up is now sponsoring a 9-city tour for underserved women. It's going to kick off in Dallas next month. And for 3 days, they can come for free to each city and learn more about sexual harassment, domestic violence, and how to have a voice civically and politically. So I'm incredibly proud to be the beginning of a solution for those women as well.
I love that's so incredible. You know, this book really, as I said to Kit, have your daughters read it. I'm going to have my sons read it. It's not just, it's for parents, it's for, I think, we have teen children, as do you. We want to talk to you, Gretchen, about even what your daughter Kaya said and her reaction, how your family responded to what you were going through during that very difficult time. We'll be right back. More with Gretchen Carlson after this.
My own daughter told me, when people ask me what happened to you, Mom, I feel so proud to say you are my mom.
Me choked up. Wow. We're back on Access Hollywood Live with Gretchen Carlson from New York. That's Gretchen from her opinion piece on CBS Sunday Morning.
Her new book is titled Be Fierce, and it's time to be fierce. Gretchen, I love what you said about your daughter, and you wrote about it in the book as well, how proud your daughter, your son also, your husband. How difficult was this on your family, though, coming forward?
Yeah, incredibly. I mean, I think this is an excruciating decision for any woman to make. And my utmost concern was my children. They're 12 and 14, and that's a rough age, as we all know, middle school, getting into high school, and would they be teased? Would they be uncomfortable with any part of the story? So that was my number one concern. You know, I have to say that I had no way of knowing how any of this was going to pan out, how every day has been a different experience for me, but the one thing I do know is that my kids have come out braver and more courageous. And if that's the gift that I can pass along to any other parent to give to their kids, then this has all been worth it to me.
Gretchen, take us inside for you the moment you decided enough is enough and you were going to come forward and file the lawsuit. Do you remember that moment very vividly?
Yeah, well, as I said, you know, building courage isn't something that you just decide overnight. So this was a long process and excruciating choice. But I think that when I realized that my career that I had worked so hard at for more than 25 years was going to come to an end, and that was not my decision, that it was coming to an end, I realized that I had to stand up and speak up, not only for myself, but for the millions of other women out there who have gone through similar things. And most importantly, for the three of us who are all moms, I needed to do it so that my children would not face the same indignities that I had. And I didn't want anyone in our future generation to face that. And I think, look what's happening now. You know, we are talking about this, and I'm so optimistic that the work that I'm doing, especially on Capitol Hill, to try and change our laws as well, to take it out of secrecy, I really feel like this is the tipping point. And women are saying enough is enough. We're going to make change.
You know, what are the laws? Because Harvey Weinstein, wasn't it, there's a sexual harassment contract in his contract that excluded him from something? Like, what are the laws today?
Yeah, well, that was a private company, so whatever his contract said, you know, I'm not privy to exactly, but here are the realities of employment contracts in general for you and me and other people watching. Arbitration clauses are prevalent now in them, and that means if you happen to have a dispute at work, and none of us want them, I didn't know I would have one, but that means that we've given up our 7th Amendment right to go to an open jury process, and we're forced into this secret chamber of arbitration. So hypothetically, if a woman's sexually harassed, she files a complaint, she's forced into the secret chamber, nobody ever knows about it. The company picks the arbitrator. Only 20% of the time does the employee win. There's no appeal. She's fired, she's gone, and many times the harasser's still at the office harassing people. It's got to change.
And I think you talk a lot about that. And then women then face the repercussions. They're out of a job, but the harasser's still at work. I mean, it seems like there's no justice on that front, but you are helping bring some of that change about, as you mentioned.
I'm working on Capitol Hill, and here's the key. We need bipartisan support on this because it's the only way it's going to make a difference. The way I look at it is that not much gets done on Capitol Hill right now. So if we can come together on this issue to take the secrecy out of arbitration, Republicans and Democrats, this is for women. And both parties need female voters. So, and by the way, sexual harassers, they harass Republicans and Democrats. So everyone should care about this issue. And I am just really tenacious about the fact that I'm going to get this done.
I hope you get it done. I got to ask you, because you write a lot about our own Access Hollywood tape. How do you explain how voters could look past that admission of treatment, the treatment of women by our own now president?
Well, everyone has their own personal decision on who they vote for. That is a right that they're given as a citizen of this country. For me personally, I took it as a teaching moment for my children. And I actually had them watch that videotape, as difficult as it was, because I wanted them to know how not to treat another human being. And I really believe that human dignity supersedes any political policy. So that was my lesson to my kids.
There's a great parents' pledge that I love. I'm signing up right now, taking the parents' pledge in this book. I encourage all parents to look at this as well. But what do you hope parents can take away from this? As I said, we're going to have our kids read this. It's not just parents, it's kids. I mean, this is something that should be taught in schools in all reality.
You are so right on. And it's actually why I'm speaking at high schools and I'm doing a college campus tour as well around the book, Be Fierce, because we have to get to our kids young. And this is why I had a whole chapter on parenting. Look, I actually believe it's more crucial the way in which we raise our sons than our daughters, because we need to have our sons respect not only their moms and their siblings and their sisters, but that same respect then needs to follow them when they get into the workplace and show their female colleagues the same amount of respect that they might have seen and learned at home. So I really challenge parents to pay closer attention to how you're parenting and what you're saying at home, because they're watching everything.
Yeah, Gretchen, we talked about your daughter. How did your son handle all of this?
My son, he just has this ability to jump out of bed and be happy every day. And so the main quality that he gave me was, even in my darkest hours, when I would see his cherub face, he made me laugh. And I know that he knows deep down that his mom did something incredibly courageous, and he will never, ever forget that. And I'm hopeful that that's going to put him on a pathway in life to respect women for the rest of his life.
It's so important, that lesson. The chapter you said, men who defend.
Yeah.
The men in our lives who are rising to the occasion and speaking out now. And there's some really good ones that you name by name, which I like.
Yes.
How do we get men to be more on page with that?
Well, we're seeing it happen with the Harvey Weinstein story. We've seen men, especially on social media, saying, hey, I'm speaking up too. I've seen it. It's happened to me as well. Men can be victims. So that's the first start, is having their voices heard. But what actually happened in researching my book was that I found out there were so many great men out there doing great work. It ended up being the longest chapter in my book. So I really believe that one of the other ways men can help us, besides speaking up, is to not be bystanders in the workplace when they see this happening, to be our allies instead of bystanders. I know it can be risky as well. I document stories in the book about men who did that and then they got fired. But I really hope that we can work on this together, especially for millennials. I really believe that they're going to be the force of changing this. Taylor Swift came out about her groping case. And that was such an important message for young people, that they should have a voice on this together as well.
Tall mountain, but we will continue to climb.
We're climbing it with you leading the way. Gretchen, thanks so much.
Thanks,
Be
Gretchen.
Fierce is out now, and thanks again for all the great work you're doing.